That's my book. It says,
Hey everyone, and welcome back. If you've been here before with us, thank you. We appreciate you. We are here for our Sunday evening conversation, our Connected Human Conversations. And for those of you who are new, thank you for wandering in, and we appreciate you and are looking forward to you adding to our discussion through the chat. So I am Nancy Barrows. I am one of the hosts of Connected Human Conversation, and I'm here with Michael Morano, who is the other host. And tonight we are going to be talking about recognizing your trauma as trauma. So going through some of the steps, this was a topic that was initiated or ignited by someone I spoke to who was sort of having a hard time using the word trauma for their past experiences. And so it brought up a conversation between me and this person, and it brought up some interesting ideas for me about how that works for people.
I'm already live, so do whatever you want.
So delicious. So, talking a little bit of like the weight of the word trauma, that alone, talking about, the long-term impact of traumas and how we tend to use a trauma report card, right? We judge ours against someone else's to figure out the magnitude of our own trauma. So, talking a little bit of like the weight of the word trauma, that alone. Okay, sorry, something else became unmuted. So that's sort of where we're going tonight. I'm curious, Mike, your initial thoughts, because I brought the topic to you, and I don't know what you were thinking when I brought it up.
Trauma's interesting, right? Trauma's, I don't know exactly how it's defined. I don't think there is a definition. I think everybody has their own personal definition of it, because I think things interact differently with each person. It's more of a personal definition. So like the way that I identify trauma is anything that's long lasting beyond the initial instance, something that continues to carry forward in a non-healthy way that impacts other things in your life and creates triggers. For me, identifying traumas has never been really easy until like the last year. Within the last year, I started understanding what the trauma I really went through was and how to cope with it and handle it and kind of rinse it out. It's a never-ending journey. I'm still on it daily. Some days are better than others, and today's probably one of the ones that's not. And it just is what it is, right? Like, I mean, it just is what it is. So it just... I don't know. I guess that's what trauma means to me. I don't really compare my trauma to anybody else's, because I learned a long time ago when it comes to what somebody goes through, it's really hard to compare because everybody handles things differently and everybody experiences differently. Even if it's the same exact events, each person basically takes it in a different way. So, that's pretty much, I don't know. I think that's all I can say right this second.
Well, one of my initial thoughts was exactly that, is you could have 10 people experience the same event and have 10 potentially completely different reactions to it, right? So what does make it trauma? Is it how it's impacting you in your current life and, those kinds of things? Is it how bad it seems compared to someone else's? The clinical definition would be when you're in a position and your system is overwhelmed, right? And it perceives whatever's happening as overwhelming the system, you get a trauma response. So there is that definition of it out there. But I think, for us personally, it's interesting because I've never had hesitation to attach the word trauma to my experience. That was never hard for me. And I think there is, for some people, a really, there's something attached to the word trauma. There's some significance to that word, to identifying it as trauma, that I didn't sort through. And I know you just said, Mike, that you just recently sort of started to recognize your traumas. And is that because you never saw them as traumas before? Because sometimes I think we live in them, and therefore they don't seem that big to us. It's always been our story. But I'm curious for you, like I said, I've never had a problem identifying my experience as traumatic.
I don't think identifying them as trauma was the issue. I think I just was very happy avoiding them.
Hmm.
and hiding from them with any type of escapism possible. So that's just kind of what I did with it. Um, was just the complete escapism, just running from it any way possible. Um, so I don't think the identifying part was the problem. It was dealing with it that was the problem. I never wanted to deal with it. I just, I liked being numb, and I found any way to be numb.
Yeah.
Sid, what's wrong?
Well, it's a delicious.
Oh.
So, again, dealing with it is very, obviously there's so much that goes along with dealing with it. And this, for me, for a long time, being a survivor, like that was my identity and my badge of honor, and this place of strength and almost coming from anger and indignance was a really safe place for me to be. And that felt good. Anger felt strong to me. Whereas the vulnerability and the feelings that I had locked away for so long were really uncomfortable for me, and they made me feel really weak and out of control. And as a result of my trauma, I was definitely looking for control. I definitely, took the steps toward the things in my life I can control, and even went too far with that, with, becoming anorexic. But, this idea of my primary identity not being a survivor, right? Not this super strong woman who could get through everything, but it being a part of me, but my learning that my vulnerability is one of my biggest strengths. To be able to be vulnerable is one of my biggest strengths. So there's a piece to it for me where, if it's not impacting you, but how do you know if it's not impacting you? And this is part of the conversation I had with this individual is, how, be curious. Are you willing to be curious and explore it? Because if I look back and I look at the trauma checklist, so to speak, the symptoms and signs of trauma, I was experiencing so many of them. What got so bad for me was my depression. That's what screamed the loudest in order for me to go, start getting help, as I was no longer functioning. But I had all of the pieces of like hypervigilance. I still am not a good sleeper. I have sleep disturbances. I had for a long time an exaggerated startle reflex. Still have poor memory, both from my childhood and to this day. You tell me something and there's a really good chance I'm not going to remember it. My relationship suffered. I had emotional outbursts, things would trigger me, and all of a sudden, if you were disrupting my world that I carefully created, you became the enemy. Hi, love. Hello, little Sid. And so it was dangerous to be someone in my life for a bit, and it took a very special person that was willing to go through that with me, and to find those people who still to this day are willing to, sit with all the yuck as well as celebrate all the amazing. But I keep coming back to two things, this vulnerability being strength, right? We think it doesn't feel very strong when you're in it. Being vulnerable is a place of really, exactly that, feeling vulnerable, right? You feel at risk, you're putting yourself out there, but at the same time, our biggest strength is our willingness to be vulnerable with other people. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage to be able to show up that way. So that's one thought that kept coming up for me. The other is this trauma report card. And I've run into this a bunch of times where people will measure their trauma versus someone else's. So, yes, I experienced childhood sexual abuse, and it went on for many years. And somehow that, to someone else, they'll say to me, well, my trauma wasn't as bad. How are we measuring that? Why is it not as bad? If you experienced it, your system was overwhelmed. From that experience, while we're all unique and our experiences are all unique, the trauma response isn't, right? The trauma response of our body and the fight or flight and survive this, and I'm going to get through it, is pretty textbook across person to person. And so there is this place of commonality where you're experiencing the same sort of things and maybe recognize them in someone else. And I know, Mike, you're really, really intuitive. So I know you probably see these things in other people regardless, but do you feel like, this piece of being vulnerable or comparing, I won't even ask you because I know you don't compare, but this piece of being vulnerable to me is vital in the move toward mental wellness. And I don't know where you stand on that.
Sharing your vulnerable truth makes others comfortable to do the same, right? So when somebody's willing to be open and share a piece of themselves, it allows the other person to be comfortable and do the same thing if they're ready, right? It doesn't always work effectively that way. It doesn't always work 100% perfect that way. But it sets the table that even if that person's not ready, they'll come back when the time is right. So you open that door and you kind of just leave it open for them. For me, without vulnerability, I would never be where I am right now, right? Like, I mean, I'm really good about openly sharing just about anything. It just doesn't scare me, bother me, anything. So it's interesting. It's like there's such a dynamic there and a tie to the vulnerability with the strength within, the courage to share versus somebody else being willing to open up to you, right? And like for me, when you're dealing with a coach, when you're dealing with a person, when you have a circle, when you have whatever it is, the only way that you actually truly get to know who's right for you and resonates with you in that way is by being vulnerable in the first place. I mean, I see things in everyone, right? And for the first time in my life, I'm learning to shut up and just not say anything. It's very new for me. Shutting down is easy, right? Shutting down on myself is easy, but shutting up when I see something in somebody else is not easy. And over the past couple of weeks, I've been getting much better at it. And it's something I'm really focused on right now as I've been going through my healing journey. I've also asked people to directly call me out on shit because I don't want people to shut up. I want people to call me out because I want to learn from it and get better. I'm in it to do the work. I'm in it to make this effective. And I'm learning to reach out and ask, which is tough. I mean, it's really challenging for me. Today was an amazing day. And then I had a list of things that needed to get done. Sid laid down on me. I fell asleep for 2 hours. I woke up frantic because nothing got done, just nothing. And I haven't caught up since. Sid has been off since. The other two have been off since. And I had weird dreams and nightmares and crap again. And it was like all these discombobbled things that just now has thrown my energy way off. And I'm nowhere near centered and focused. And the kids are chaotic, and probably because I'm chaotic, right? They feed off me. Yeah. So it's just throwing me really off my typical self. And there's a few triggers that have come up because of it, right? And that's from the traumas. But I'm also knee deep in my healing journey, right? So when you're knee deep in your healing journey, everything gets amplified, good and bad. As far as tying it back to vulnerability and trauma, when you're vulnerable and strong and courageous and willing to share, everybody loves to say it's amazing how strong you are. It's amazing how courageous you are. It's amazing all these things. What they don't understand is that when you're willing to share these things, it gives you this personal freedom. It doesn't own you anymore. And as much as we all, right, our whole group, misfits, all of us, all the people in our circle, love to share to inspire others. There's a big part of that self-fulfillment that we're doing for ourselves, and it gives us our worth and it gives us our worthiness. We create our own strength from it. So, as much as it is about helping others, it's also that we've created this safe space that we're able to gain our strength and feel our worth and feel our value. I don't know if that answers it. I don't know what the question was.
It doesn't matter if it answers it. It's your thoughts, which is exactly what I wanted. And yeah, definitely started the journeys to help other people, right? If my trauma, I've always felt like my experiences have been bigger than me, and there's a reason I went through it. And if I could get out there and reach one person, then it's worth it. And in the process of doing that, what I've known, I've experienced, and so I'm going to call it discovered, because I knew it, but now I really embody it, which is every time I give, I receive so much more back, right? In helping someone else, I am receiving so much in doing that. And part of conversations with people is, people are like, oh, I'm so sorry to take your time, and, sorry to bother you. And again, I remind them, this is not one-sided. Me helping you, I get something back, right? This is something that I believed about my journey a long time, is that it's bigger than me and it's there to help other people. And so when I actually get to talk to people, help them, make sense of things, whatever it is, just be the person that says, it's not that I know, it's that I've been there. I'm receiving so much in return. And I think that is an important piece as well. Sorry, I'm reading Deborah's comment because it's valuable here. I've been working diligently over the past couple of months on trauma recovery and really turned a corner this month, using a combination of things, including energy frequency device and exercise. Of course, not easy, but doable. And I think that's a brilliant message, Deborah, and congratulations to you. I'm glad to hear that you turned a corner and that you are dedicated to yourself here and healing. But it does use a combination. I can't tell someone that my exact journey, all the things I do is going to help them, right? That's just impossible. We're all different, and I don't have that crystal ball. But I think more and more the communities are starting to recognize that there are psychological and physical, energetic, right, components to all this that we need to address to really heal. And for me and Mike, you're intimately involved in my discovering of like my personal gifts in the world of sort of energy and healing that to me, I've always taken for granted because it was just who I was. But then starting to realize how important that is, the energy that I give others, right? That is a gift that I want to use it, for lack of a better word, wisely. Deborah, you're so welcome. Please continue to engage through the comments if there's anything you want to share, anything you want us to discuss. Happy to do that. I forgot exactly where I was. Hello, trauma brain. So anyway, there's plenty to talk about, so I can keep moving on. I want to come back to this. And Mike, I don't think you were like I was, but maybe there's people who were. Like, I really wore survivor as a badge of honor. Like if I think about how I was then, it was sort of like a puff your chest out, lean forward and be like, come on, bring it. Come on. You think you got something? Bring it. Like I'm a survivor. But being in that place, really what it was me standing in a place of feeling powerful instead of powerless, right? Coming from this place of, I've got this, I can do all of it, you're not taking me down kind of thing. And now what I feel like is if I was to meet me then, my energy would have been like, you come up against me and it's like, I literally am the superhero that's like pew, pew, blocking every attempt to get to me, right? You're not going to get to me. You're not going to get to the real me. You're not going to be the person who hurts me. You're not going to be the person who, is the start of my undoing. You are not going to be the person who's going to make me feel these things that I do not want to feel. And so for a long time, I identified with being a survivor and that being my identity, whereas now I identify as a person who experienced sexual abuse. And for me, that was a huge shift. And Deborah, I don't know what your experience with trauma is, if you want to weigh in, or anyone else out there. For me, getting vulnerable and getting grateful were two really important steps for me.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't wear it as a badge of honor. I guess at one point during my drug and alcohol-induced numbness, I made it a competition just because I couldn't die, right? Like, no matter how many times I tried, I just couldn't. So I guess in that way I did. And I really tried hard. I mean, I really went out of my way to try and make it happen. 25 hits of ecstasy for 9 months straight every day, didn't work. Drinking 2 bottles of liquor and 3 8-balls of Coke a day didn't work. I tried everything. No matter what I did garbage pile style stuff where ecstasy, acid, mushrooms, alcohol, Coke, all mixed, didn't work. I mean, nothing really worked. It's like I went out of my way to want to die, and there was no badge of honor. It was more of I just wanted complete numbness. I didn't want to feel anything, right? Once I got sober, I got a little bit more confident in that side of my life. As far as being sober and helping people, giving back. My spirituality woke back up again, of course, because it was one of the things I, tried to numb. My gifts, because I just didn't want them. They were more of a burden than a blessing at that point in my life. I wasn't ready for it. And I really had nobody around me to explain it to me. So it made it even more difficult. And then in the 80s, it wasn't easy to find, 80s, 90s, it wasn't easy to find information on it. It just wasn't. If you weren't in that environment, then you knew nothing about it. And I wasn't. So, when I look back as far as, yeah, I mean, I pushed people away. I pushed everybody away. Nobody got within, a football field of me. Nobody knew the real me, not even close, because I refused to let anybody be close. I didn't want anybody close to me. And the few people that I did choose to let close at different times, I also self-sabotaged, blamed it on them, shamed myself, and it became this vicious cycle. And then once I got sober, I didn't do the emotional work, and I've talked about it many times. So yeah, I did the work, and I got a lot of crap out of me, and I was able to white knuckle it my whole, the last 15 years. But until I did the emotional work, I never got that freedom from it, and I kept making the same mistakes, even sober. I always self-sabotaged. I always destroyed every circumstance I had, every situation I had. I went out of my way. I had no self-confidence. I had worth issues, didn't know my value. I got manipulated spiritually many times, and that kind of just put that bad taste in my mouth also. And that's why sometimes I also have a hard time accepting those compliments at times, right? Reggie says I'm Professor X. Joe said I was Professor X this last week or the week before. And it's hard for me to hear that, right? Because I got manipulated spiritually for a while. And I was so naive about those that I trusted in that way that I sank into it. And I started believing that I was this evil person, right? I don't know. I really don't know about a badge of honor at all. It was more just like I had this 100-yard shield around me that refused to let anyone close. It didn't matter who they were. They did not get anywhere near close to me. And I just really just wanted to hide behind it. That's really what it was. I just wanted to hide. I just didn't want to deal with it. Like, it's the opposite of who I am today. Today I beg to deal with it. Today I, reach out to people and beg to deal with it. And, it doesn't always work. It just doesn't, right? Everybody's got their own shit in their own lives. So but I really want to do the work because I don't like being stuck. And stuck is a really shitty feeling for me right now. I'm much happier being uncomfortable than I am stuck. Mm-hmm. It's really an opposite paradigm, right? Because for years I was stuck in misery and I was very content just being there. And now I don't want to be stuck. I want to keep fighting through it and I want to go through it, and it's challenging. It's really tough at times. But it is what it is. And we just keep making the best of every circumstance and situation.
And I love that our journeys are different, right? We experienced how we got to the same place, so to speak, from very different angles. We took very different paths here. I was such a person in need of such control that I would never do drugs, right? Because I couldn't control how that was going to happen, how I would act, how long it would last. Very sparing with alcohol for the same reason. I became a great faker, in college and high school. And so I went there's no reason to notice me because everything's fine route. And it was, it's great that we can have a conversation where we didn't experience it the same way in terms of healing, right? And our journey toward wellness was very different. And I think that's important for people to hear. There's no one right way to get here. It's definitely not. And I had, one of the things that I experienced was that dissociation, right? I didn't feel my feelings. I was a very cerebral, logical based person. And that's how that's how I protected myself from the feelings and the emotions, and I the prime example that I can give is in relationships. I could either be emotionally connected to you and couldn't cross the line into physical intimacy, or I could sleep with you just fine, but I didn't want to know anything about you and you didn't need to know anything about me. Right. So that was one way for me to keep all of that separate. And, I did things like along those lines that gathered evidence that boosted my narrative of why I was so broken, broken beyond repair, and I would never be able to do this. And, all of it just spoke to all the things I believed about myself. And it wasn't until that shifted for me. And I don't know exactly what made it shift, right? I don't know I can't pinpoint to this was it and this is what I did. I certainly can't. But there was definitely a time when that started to come together, and as shitty as it was, because you can't just feel what you want to feel, right? It all comes back to you. Once I experienced it, it got harder and harder to go back to being dissociated from it. And at the time when I started that part of my healing, it definitely felt like a blessing and a curse. I didn't know how to be in my body while it was feeling. It was so uncomfortable. So like a feeling of like agitated and wanting to crawl out of my skin. I did not feel comfortable in my own body because I was experiencing everything together. And that was, again, it's each step of the journey, being okay with what comes up, being able to take a moment almost to look back, right? So wherever I am along the path, if I look back, it all makes sense in hindsight, right? Hindsight's 20/20, and all these things happen for a reason. When you're in it, it's hard to have that perspective. But trying to hold on to that as I was healing was important to me. I still don't know, right? Why me? Why did I survive? The person that brought this topic up to me, we were talking, and one of the things that really struck me was they were saying to me, well, mine, I survived. Like mine, it's not trauma, I survived. Like people who go through trauma, they're like, the people who end up addicted to drugs and promiscuous and homeless and all those things. And while that is true for some people, I actually turned it around and said, okay, well, can we agree that what I went through was traumatic, that I experienced trauma? And easily we could both say that was traumatic. I experienced trauma. But then I pointed out, but I'm none of those things that you are talking about, right? I'm none of those things. So does it mean that because I survived it, it wasn't trauma? Or does it mean that because even if you have trauma, right, and you can still identify it as trauma, it doesn't mean like that you're doomed. I don't know a better word for it, but I feel like there's something that goes with trauma that when people who haven't maybe thought of it that way, it feels sort of like a bigger burden. I don't know. Again, you and I are the people who did it that way. So
I think it's circumstantial, right? And I think it's environmental. I think it's situational. I think everybody has a natural response that they have. And I think that it is possible to look. I mean, I went to drugs and alcohol, right? I mean, I tried to die. It didn't work. No matter how many times I tried. So that was my response, right? And it wasn't a healthy one, I promise. It was, it was a very tough journey for me, right? Because for me, it was all about numbing. It wasn't even as much the trauma as it was the spiritual gifts that I didn't want to feel. Because I felt like the trauma was one thing, and that was buried all the way at the bottom. But the blame and shames and guilt that came from the gifts that I have made everything so amplified. It was horrible. I mean, for me, it's, it really just crushed me, like completely crushed me. And it held me down all those years. And I allowed it to suffocate me. And even when I was spiritually waking up again, when I got sober and then I got, spiritually manipulated, it really triggered everything in that and shut me back down again. The only difference was instead of going to drugs and alcohol, I found other escapisms. And that's just what I did, right? I even found helping people as an escapism. I mean, I turned it into an unhealthy habit because I would put everybody else first, and at that point, it was all just hiding from myself. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all I wanted to do, Daniel Hall. You looking at Daniel Hall's comment?
I'm back at Deborah's, who had another great comment.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Again, yeah, there's a lot in there, but there's just, again, reiterating that it's a process, basically, and it's not the same for two people. But Daniel, yes, again, that's exactly what we're talking about. Is it traumatic? Is it in the eye of the beholder? Is it how the body holds it? Is it, I've said, like, I don't remember everything from my trauma. but I also don't feel there's a need to know all of it, to know that I went through it, right? I don't need to uncover every unpleasant memory that I had from my trauma, but at the same time, I recognized how it was impacting my life. And like I said, my depression was really what forced me, quote unquote, to deal with it. I mean, the bigger picture was I could no longer keep it a secret. That option was taken from me. So my ownership of my trauma happened in a very traumatic way, right? I had held this secret for years and my life depended on it, and it was taken from me. My secret was taken from me. And so here I was exposed, and I didn't have the option because people knew. Not only was it my family, like the justice system knew, right? And it was starting to make decisions for me. Here, you have to go to therapy. Here's some court-ordered therapy for you. And so, you know, there's so many aspects to it that I just continue to be curious about. And I love having these conversations again, because it puts my mind in a place of really asking myself important questions. The questions that like Daniel's putting at me, or the ideas that Deborah's putting out there, help me to grow and continue to grow. And that's, for me, invaluable. But I also think the more we talk, the more we give permission to people to talk, right? And have these discussions, and we can change how we think about trauma, how we define trauma, all of those things.
My secret literally died. So yeah, I mean, and I'm unfortunately one of those over analytical people that needs to go through every single detail and relive it as many times as possible. Part because I'm probably a masochist, and the other part just because that's how I release it, right? It's not that I want to put myself through the pain, but I know that I need to go through the process to get rid of it. It's the only way I can. I overthink everything to death. So if I don't do the work and relive it and release it and heal it, then it's never going to be gone. And I have the opposite memory of you, to where I remember every detail of everything, and it's torture. There's days I wish I had your memory, because it literally is torture. Like, I mean, you know,
I can imagine.
I mean, you know, like, just like, that's another big comment, and I'm not going to read that yet. But as far as, like, I mean, think about it, right? Like, what me and you have discussed many times is how we observe everything, right? We catch everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I already know that you're picking up on my mood, and I know that you're picking up on my energy, and I know that you're picking up on all of it, right?
Yeah, second you got
right. Right. So, and I know that, right? And I'm owning it too, because I'm not hiding it. I don't hide anything. I'm having a shitty day, and it's fine. I'm allowed. You know, 3 kids trapped in a house. They all slept at different times. It was like we couldn't leave the house because one of them was sleeping at one point. I wanted to go get outside because it was actually nice out, but it just didn't work out that way. And then I fell asleep, so that didn't help either.
Well, you know, you said earlier you did nothing, and I actually, you know how I am. What came to me was, no, you didn't do nothing. Actually, you did a very important thing. You honored what your body needed.
That's true. Yes, I am a productive holic, so I don't find sleep productive.
But if you would have put take care of myself, or, you know, whatever it was on your list, would you feel more productive? Deborah, I don't know about Mike, but I've done EMDR.
I don't know what EMDR is, but probably
it was a really valuable tool for me. And I tried it more than once, and it didn't work for me the first time I tried it. I got nothing out of it. But later on, when I had gained more skills and more tools and more understanding, it was really helpful for me. So basically the premise is, and it can be done a bunch of different ways. My therapist put buzzers in both your hands, and they would buzz back and forth and back and forth. And the idea is bilateral stimulation of your brain, right? So you're starting to integrate that logical side with that emotional side, so that you can access both. And for me, you know, it's for everyone, it depends. I just was having trouble getting emotionally past some things that felt like logically I should have been able to, but I wasn't. Right. And so that was a tool for me that really disarmed some of those things. And the first time I did it, literally, because I'm holding these buzzers in my hand, so I can't wipe my nose, I can't wipe my tears. I am nothing short of a snotty mess, like down my face, because I can't do anything about it. And I had emotion that I had no idea that was in me. The event that I was processing, I thought I was good with. And all this stuff came up. And toward the end of the session, of course, she starts wrapping it up. And we put this stuff in a box and we seal it, whatever container I want, and I hand it to her so she can hold it. And so I came back the next week, right, dreading what was going to happen when we opened this box. And I'm here telling you, and if somebody would have told me this, I would have probably called bullshit. But we opened it up. We started the session again. And I went back to that place. And I literally was like, no, I'm okay. That emotion wasn't there anymore. I mean, I spent the whole week processing it. I definitely felt that. I was so tired that week of what was processing from what came up. But it really, for me, got somewhere that nothing else was able to get. So that's.
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Nancy.
No, I said that's my experience with it. That's all I was going to say.
Maybe when I get back to civilization, whenever that is, because it's way outside of my control, and I'm trying not to even worry about that at this point. But when it's available, I'll work on trying it, right? Based on where I'm at the time, right? I mean, I'm pretty good at crying things out and releasing them and being a snotty mess of my own. So I'm not sure if I'll still need it at that point, but if I do, I will. I mean, I'm not scared to try anything to heal at this point. I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Well, you can, there are many versions of EMDR, anything that really helps with bilateral stimulation. So walking. I don't know how many people out there walk and think and solve a lot of their problems that had them really stuck for a while. Well, you're swinging your arms, both sides, bilateral stimulation of your arm, you're using both legs, bilateral stimulation of your brain, right? And so walking and thinking is actually a really great way to engage in some of that processing, because you are, tapping into both sides of your brain. It's not the same necessarily because it's not focused and concentrated, and there's not, sort of a guided purpose to it necessarily, but it certainly is one way. And certainly yes, shout out to the kitty, but yes, she's here. It wouldn't be a show if there wasn't a kitty, drive-by kind of thing. But, those things are like, even tapping, my therapist would tell me, like, you can tap on your legs while you're thinking. Tap on each leg back and forth, and see if that helps you to access some things when you're feeling stuck. Again, not to a clinical level, but hey, anything that helps, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do anything, bro. Like, I mean, whatever it takes, I'll do. I don't care. Like, if you told me I had to go stand in front of a firing squad, I'd do that, because I know I'd still be there right after anyway. But like, I mean, if I got to electrocute myself, I'll do that. I mean, it doesn't, like, I've tried it all. Like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm in it to get past this shit so that I can move forward with where I've got to be. That's all that matters to me.
And I've said this to you, and I don't know how people feel about this. And I don't know, again, I don't know that you can speed up the process. Like, if you engage in it harder, does it make it, you know what I mean? Does it make it go faster? Because you still have to process all of it.
I can tell you, no, it doesn't. I've tried. Because nobody wants to try as hard as I do. To overachieve something like that.
Very, very dedicated to this growth.
The reality is, even if I skip steps and push through, it catches up with me. Like I mean, just like Jen said, right? Like, I mean, like, I wanted to do more healing. Like, I did. But I was pretty kicked in the face yesterday. And I was really kicked in the face, and it was a lot. It really was a lot to process, and I'm still processing it in whatever way I can, which I'm not the best at. So I'm still trying to figure that part out. But it's, there's part of me that always says, I want to call somebody and process and go through more. But I'm starting to learn that I'm being patient with myself now, because this part of the healing is also taking my time with it, right? And part of my healing is allowing it to do what it does. And, today I was actually in a great place today, and that nap just threw me off. It really messed with my OCD and my schedule and all those little things that I try to control in my life, right? Because I've released so many. And there's little things in my life I try to control to give myself some type of routine or regimen or something. And realizing that my kids are home for the next, 7 days, it's just going to be chaos, right? And I just have to accept that. It's just going to be all over the place. There's not really much to do out here. There's not really many places to go. It's going to rain at least half the days. So it is what it is, and I've just got to suck it up. And I've just got to allow myself to be okay with that. And that's the one thing I didn't do today. That's the one thing I did not do today, was allow. I felt very suffocated.
Kelly, that's exactly the comment that I would highlight here, like allow and not controlling, that whole, when you're talking, that element of control just feels like it's coming up. I'm the same. I love my to-do list. I try to sort out my day, and have been at times at a place where a really good conversation with a friend ends up being a negative thing because it wasn't on my schedule, and now I'm off and I'm never going to get everything finished, and da 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 da. And having to stop myself and listen to what I'm saying to myself, right? That my connecting with a good friend somehow is negative. It's a waste of time. Just is not true or helpful for me to keep telling myself. This morning I got to catch up. This week, particularly, I got to catch up. I had a really nice long phone call with my nephew, another one with a niece. I had a 2-hour phone call this morning with one of the people I most adore in this world, because we hadn't talked in a really long time. And I could allow myself to feel like that was wasted time. It was not on my list to do those things. But the value inherent to them, right? When I stop and recognize the value that comes from that to me, it's overwhelming to really start to see that. And it's hard to think of it as wasted time from there. One of the things I struggle with, and you mentioned it earlier, is taking in when people sort of reflect back good things about me. And not all things. It's really not about all things. For me, I set off to be inspiring, right? To help others. And yet when that's reflected back to me that that's what I'm doing, that is hard for me to take in. And it's not that I don't believe it. I have so much evidence that it's true, but I still fight, again, that word allow. I fight it being something I identify with. It just doesn't, it's like trying on someone else's clothing to me. It just doesn't quite fit. And so again, that piece of allowing, that piece of stepping into our space fully, allowing ourselves to collect pieces of evidence for the narrative that maybe don't match the narrative that we have in our head, and being flexible and allowing and willing to sort of see things differently, right? Control. If I make plans, the universe laughs at me. Every time I come up with a really nice, neat plan, the universe is like, haha, sweetheart, go sit down. You're funny, right? So this piece of allowing that it may not go the way I picture it going is supposed to be going. The gift in that. Switching my thoughts on how I think about that.
Yeah, I mean, the allowing,
so many people I haven't said hello to. I'm so sorry. D-Roo, I see you're here. Jen, hello. Thank you. Katie J. You guys, thank you for engaging. Your thoughts are amazing and talking to one another. I know I'm missing other people that I didn't say hi to. Daniel, hi. Yeah, there's a lot of people here. I feel so grateful for the community that we have and the conversations that we can have with them, right? That's
Kelly, yes, I agree with you. But anyone that knows me, my way of processing is verbally, and sometimes that's just not available, right? So when it's not available, my body shuts myself down, because it's either that or I'm gonna beat the living shit out of myself. So I'm not sure if it was processing because there was something else I needed to identify, or if it was me just shutting down. So I'm not sure which one it was. I can't identify that currently. but either way, it did whatever it needed to do, and it is what it is. So,
and if we push too far, do we have to shut down, right? If we're pushing too hard, is that really the only thing that can happen is to shut down? Right?
I mean, for me, yeah. I mean, for me, yeah. My body just says, F you, you're done. Right. My mind says, F you, you're done, right? Like, I mean, I can normally sleep 5.5, 6 hours, even 5 hours, and be amazing. And on top of it, last night I slept 6 solid, woke up, and I wanted to go back to sleep already. Like, it was just, my body is fried. My body has just been taking a toll because it's just going through the emotional trauma again. And
the cognitive energy that it takes, right? Going through trauma is a big cognitive effort. It's a big emotional effort. It's a big physical effort. It's draining processing it. Yeah, I mean, Diru and I were talking about visualization this week, and aren't I tired? Yes, I am, Diru. I am. And I'm learning to have more grace with myself. I, took on a lot the last 2 weeks, all things that fueled my soul, which are great, but my body needs to be fueled with sleep. I'm getting better, and I appreciate Mike, because he honors my boundaries, and he knows that he does not take them personally. And I appreciate that, because I'm really getting better at holding boundaries for what I need. And with people who I can trust to be vulnerable with, that are not going to make me feel bad about that. So yes, am I tired? Oh, hell yeah, I'm tired. And then I don't know James, but welcome. I'm glad you're here. It's the first time meeting you, so welcome in. Happy to have you here.
Daniel, I have no problem speaking to you. I mean, we've been connected for a little while, never talked, so I'm all for it.
Okay.
Send me a DM, because I don't know how to find your schedule. I don't really spend much time on any social media anymore. So if you send me a DM, I'll definitely get back to it. Hey, Bill, how are you?
Hey, Bill. Good to see you.
As far as the dream telling me anything, Diru, yeah, they did. I mean, they definitely did, right? It triggered a few things for me, and I understand what it was, what it is. And that's fine. It is something that I'm working through, and I understand that. But for me, it's more about the discombobulated factor that comes from it. Like when I have, when I'm trying to accomplish things with, 3 kids by myself in the middle of nowhere, and I'm trying to get stuff done, knowing that they're home for the next 8 days in a row, 9 days in a row, whatever it is, because it's spring break. I try to really stick to some type of, best laid plan that I can. So when I do pass out like that, it's like, it kind of just, it takes me off a little bit, right? And then since then, it's just been nonstop. I mean, it's literally been nonstop. They saw their mother yesterday, so Sid is like Velcro today. The older 2 have just been hiding in their room all day because they don't know how to deal with it. So I'm just giving each of them space, and Sid is no space. So it's trying to accomplish anything is not easy today. And it was a bad day for me to have that scenario, because I had so much that I needed to get done for me that just didn't happen.
So what can you align with that these next 7 days don't feel like that over and over again? And I apologize with the time change, this whole new light thing I haven't figured out.
Thing.
Yeah.
I hate the time change.
Me too. Oh man.
Not a fan. Not a fan. The reality is I just have to be. I just have to allow and be, and just let it flow. I can't try and control it. I can't try, and I'm just going to have to understand that any plans I have, all 37 of my lives this week, which is what it feels like, are just going to be chaotic, and just to accept it. I mean, I have, this one tonight. Tomorrow I have my show middle of the day. I'm on with DJ in the evening. Then Tuesday I have my show.
Don't miss that. That's going to be a great conversation. Sorry, I'm not letting you get past that so fast. That's going to be a really powerful conversation between the 2 people.
Yeah, and then Tuesday I have my show, and then Tuesday me and Jairus launch our show.
I know.
And then Wednesday I have my show, and then I launch me and Jen and Christy's show. Right, and then Thursday I think I have another show, and then we have Miss.
Yeah,
right. Like Oh, no, I don't have a show Friday during the day, actually, but I do have DJ on my show on Friday. DJ was nice to inform me of that yesterday because I had no clue. I didn't make it that far yet.
You're me the last 2 weeks. Right.
It's
I had last week, let's see, for the last 2 weeks, I had Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday being this Sunday.
Yeah. But yours are different because yours are more marathons, right? And yours, there's a lot more prep and after work. Mine, there's not, right? Like, I don't go back and do what you do. I don't do the prep work for it as much as I probably should, but I don't, right?
There's no shitting.
Because I don't focus on that side of it. Juggling the 3 kids, I do the best I can with everything I have, right? And I accept that. And I know that I'm doing the best I can with everything I have. And I'm okay with that today. Just like now, 50 minutes in, I'm finally feel like a human again. When at the beginning of the show, I felt like I wanted to get ran over by a truck. So, but there's no traffic. So, I mean, look, I looked. There was none. I looked. There isn't any.
Sometimes you step off the curb and get hit by a bus. It just is.
Right. And that's kind of what today felt like. And D-Roo, yes, tomorrow I'm a DJ. I don't know where DJ went. She must have disappeared, but yes.
Your guess. Yeah. And I want to just quickly go back to, sorry, and this is totally off topic, but the 2 shows that you're launching this coming week, because they're some of my favorite humans you'll be doing that with. And one is with Jairus Tucker. If you guys don't know him from Island of Misfit Toys, definitely someone to connect with. He's one of the purest hearts that I have ever encountered. And then, and that's Tuesday at, I think we were the time change thing. So I think it's 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
5:30. 5:30.
Okay, because Kelly was doing the math for me. And then Wednesday, it's followed by your show with Jen Zahari, another amazing human.
And Christy, and Dr.
Oh,
Christy.
and Christy's doing it too? Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, wow. You've got 3.
It's 2 guys, 2 girls and a guy sharing our truths.
Yeah, 2 remarkable humans with you. I mean, you were remarkable as well, but you're 2 remarkable humans that are with you. No, try that again.
The world gets enough of me. The world gets enough of me. I'm always on.
It doesn't make you less remarkable. Anyway, so both Jen and Christy are people who have that amazing empathy, and Jen has this beautiful way of seeing everything from every perspective effortlessly without even trying. And then, Christy's she's a sort of a natural born healer, as is Jen too. But I think if you guys, if you can find a minute or 2, those would be things that would definitely be worth your while. So there's my little plug for those humans that I love.
Thank you. I'm not very good at that. Thank you.
But see, it's also why you partner with people like me who do the work, right? I'm the one who's the type A personality that's like, okay, do we have the promo? I want to do the promo. Let's do this. Can I do it? Because then I'm going to take a picture afterwards, and I want to take a screenshot, and then we're going to do it, so I can put it on afterwards, and we can talk about how great it was. See, I'm the little, pick me kid in the crowd. So, there's a reason we partner with the people we partner with. We find the people we need.
Yes, we do. And they find us, right? Like, they do. And apparently Sid's locked in the bedroom because she can't open the door right now, which means she probably has food on her hands. So.
My Sid delicious. All right. So, gosh, I can't believe it's almost time. Wow. Mike, how did that happen?
I don't know. Yes, Sid, how can I help you?
I'll hug you.
Now you want to hug me? Okay, Sid.
Hi, my friend Sid.
Sid, away from the computer, please. Please, you're going to knock it over.
Take in that love. She knows. Listen, you and I have been on the phone enough that I know she knows exactly when you need a hug. I don't know that she's ever been wrong.
She's covered in cereal, covered in mac and cheese, covered in, and smells like ketchup.
Okay, so it's going to be a very delicious hug.
And there's jelly all over her too, from the peanut butter and jelly too. It's ridiculous.
Sounds like a sticky, delicious kind of hug to me.
Oh my God! Look at your hands, child.
I know.
Go wash them, please.
I know. Look at the way you've totally and thoroughly enjoyed everything, child. Hi, Sid. You want to say hi?
Say hi. Turn around.
And say
Turn
hi,
around and
Sid.
Ow.
Oh, I got a little wave. Okay, I'll take that.
Oh,
Little wave. So keeping in mind that we are wrapping up in about 5 minutes. There's so many sides to everything, and that's what fascinates me. And I love the people who shop because, yes, thank you, Deeru. You know what? Forget the crap. Just take the hug. Like, don't even have to wipe it off. Take the hug.
I didn't want to.
There's come a time when she's not gonna want that hug. You're gonna wish you could.
I got a yep.
Yeah. Still. Anyway, I think that one of the most important things for me to hear, and I'm still evolving. I'm not necessarily processing my trauma on a daily basis, but things come up. I think that's everybody's, because we're still living life, right? New things are happening to us that we process. But this idea, and I think Darren put it out there, where when he's rushing, he gets overwhelmed. Typically, it's too much, and then he shuts down, right? And that's how we deal with it. We shut down, we go in, we can't handle any of it. And my thought is then by trying to push farther faster, we're really ending up taking more time.
You want to go?
Yeah.
So go in bed.
Yeah, really, really taking more time because we end up shutting down and having to get started.
That's open.
But it's open. Come here. Come here, Sid.
Got mustard on the bed.
Yeah.
Huh?
She
What's
got
on the
mustard
bed?
on the bed.
That's
Mustard.
okay. It sounds like you're doing some sleep. So,
I put a lot of bleach. We're good.
it's all good. We know, and that's the thing is, at the end of the day, it's all good. I've had so many people ask me in my moments, like, "Are you going to make it?" kind of thing, like that kind of question, and my answer every time is, "Yeah." I don't have any choice. I don't have a choice but to make it. It's the only option I have. So, as I enter into this new week, I, do as I always do. I set my intentions. I start every day with my affirmations. And, this week, because of this conversation, I bring along with me the brilliance and wisdom of the people that were here with us today, including you, and Kelly, who I know is back there, helping us out and doing the things that allow us to be more present in these conversations. So, any last thoughts, Mike?
No. Not right this second. Can't really think much right now.
I know. You're in that place of growth, right? You're in that place of growth. And it can be tiring. I don't think so. Oh, Sid. The reality is it's hard to be tiny and it's hard to be big. Maybe that's the lesson of today. Thank you, Darren. Yes, I do need to rest, and I will make it. But I'm learning to stop and sit down before life knocks me down. I've gotten much better at that, I will say. So, all right. Well, hi. No, not today. Not today. Thank you, Jen, for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and ideas. You are always so insightful. Appreciate that. Thank you to everyone for spending time with us tonight. Again, coming from someone who's real busy, I know that time is a very valuable thing, and I really appreciate that you choose to spend it with us. And thank you for showing up so that we can have these conversations and that we can talk about some topics that may be uncomfortable for people, may not be the things that everybody was willing to talk about, but we certainly are here. And we will do it again next Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, again on Connected Human Conversations with another topic that we hope you join us for. And not only join us, but you participate like you did tonight in the comments. Your insights and wisdom are very much appreciated, and you make the show that much more special. So,
and if for no other reason, Mike survived it the week.
Right.
Of them
See how the week went. How spring break week went with Mike, right? That's what we're headed to. And all the lives in focus. So thank you, everyone. Continue to enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful week. Lots of growth, lots of success, lots of breakthroughs. And thank you again for being with us tonight.
You got ketchup on the bed?
Yeah.
Okay. I still have bleach.